Once upon a time, being rich and famous was like having a get-out-of-jail-free card. No matter how bad the crime, the right connections or a fat bank account could make the problem disappear. But times have changed. These days, the long arm of the law isn't as easily swayed, and even Hollywood's elite are finding themselves locked up like the rest of us. No, we're diving into the deep end, the celebs who ended up in prison for the kind of crimes that make headlines and ruin careers. Buckle up, because these are the stars who went from red carpets to cold, hard cells. War Machine's brutal fall. In 2009, MMA fighter War Machine made a bizarre career pivot, announcing he'd be stepping into the world of adult films to supplement his mixed martial arts income. And when he commits starring in a jaw-dropping 12 films between 2009 and 2010. Somewhere in the midst of all that, he began dating renowned adult film star Christy Mack. But the honeymoon phase didn't last. By 2010, War Machine found himself in prison, serving a 1-year sentence for assault. When he finally got out, Mack had moved on specifically to a new relationship with Corey Thomas. The disgraced fighter didn't take the news well. On August 8, 2014, he broke into Mack's home in a violent rage, attacking both her and Thomas. The brutal assault left Mack with 18 broken bones, missing teeth, and a ruptured liver, a horrifying scene that stunned the public. After years of delays and court battles, justice caught up with him. In March 2017, War Machine was convicted on 29 felony counts, including kidnapping and sexual assault with a weapon. His sentence? Life in prison with the earliest chance of parole in 36 years. From MMA to Hollywood to a prison cell, War Machine's story is one of the most shocking cautionary tales in combat sports history. Bobby Shmurda's rap sheet. Rappers love spitting bars about crime, whether it's petty theft or grand larceny. You name it, someone's rhymed about it. Most, however, keep it strictly lyrical. Bobby Shmurda, not so much. For him, rapping about the streets wasn't enough. He had to live it. By 2014, things were looking up for the Brooklyn rapper. At just 20, he had a viral hit climbing to No. 6 on the Billboard Hot 100, and the infamous Shmoney dance was taking over the internet. But just as fast as his career skyrocketed, it crashed. That June, he was arrested for waving a gun around at a friend's apartment. 6 months later, arrested again, this time for conspiracy to commit murder. If that wasn't enough, while awaiting trial at Rikers Island, Shmurda got caught trying to smuggle a knife into prison because apparently making things worse was part of the plan. By September 2016, with charges piling up, he took a plea deal pleading guilty to third-degree conspiracy and weapons possession. He was sentenced to 7 years, but when prison guards found a homemade shank in his cell, his time behind bars stretched to 11 years. A meteoric rise, a dramatic fall. Bobby Shmurda's career became just another cautionary tale of a rapper who couldn't outrun his own lyrics. Abby Lee's downfall. Abby Lee Miller, another reality TV casualty. There's just something about these Z-list celebrities that makes normal life impossible after their 15 minutes of fame. Jail, rehab, or worse, it's almost like a rite of passage. And Abby? She didn't exactly break the curse. Miller skyrocketed to reality fame as the no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners dance coach on Dance Moms in 2011, barking orders at kids and crushing their dreams in the name of discipline. The show was a hit, spawning spin-offs and turning Miller into a pop culture villain. But the applause didn't last forever. By 2015, she found herself in a different kind of competition against the federal government. Turns out, Miller had been stashing cash in secret bank accounts, all while enjoying the perks of filing for bankruptcy back in 2010. When the IRS came knocking, she cut a deal, pleaded guilty, and landed herself a stay at the Victorville Federal Correctional Institution. 9 months behind bars out of a 366-day sentence, a far cry from her days of screaming at 10-year-olds for missing a pirouette. Jared Fogel's fall from grace. Jared Fogle, once the face of Subway, became a household name for his dramatic weight loss journey, claiming that a steady diet of Subway sandwiches helped him shed the pounds. His story turned him into a national success, and from 2000 to 2015, he served as the company's most recognizable spokesperson. However, in 2015, Fogle's career came to an abrupt end when law enforcement conducted an investigation involving his activities. Following the findings, he was removed from his role with Subway and faced legal consequences. As part of a plea agreement, Fogle admitted to unlawful conduct and was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison. His story, once an inspiration, took a shocking turn, serving as a cautionary tale about the rise and fall of public figures. Buck Zumhofe, from wrestling gimmick to prison reality. Professional wrestling has had its fair share of controversial figures, but few disgrace themselves as spectacularly as the original rock and roller Buck Zumhofe. A mid-card act in the 1980s, Zumhofe's flamboyant glam rock persona earned him a modest following in promotions like the AWA and Pro Wrestling America. But by the time he landed in the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, he was little more than enhancement talent. His job was to lose to bigger stars and make them look good. His most infamous in-ring moment, becoming the first wrestler ever stuffed into a body bag by The Undertaker. But what happened outside the ring was far more disturbing. In 2013, a financially broken Zumhofe was arrested and charged with 12 counts of criminal sexual misconduct after his daughter came forward with horrifying allegations. She claimed he had abused her for over a decade, from 1999 to 2011. And this wasn't his first run-in with the law. Zumhofe had already served time for similar offenses in the 1980s. The court found him guilty on all counts, handing him a 25-year sentence, effectively a life term. Once a gaudy character in wrestling's golden age, Zumhofe now lives out his days behind bars, stripped of the theatrics, the music, and the fans. Oscar Pistorius, from hero to convict. For a while, Oscar Pistorius was the ultimate inspiration, a man who defied the odds, proving that losing both legs as a baby wouldn't stop him from making history. The South African sprinter became one of the few athletes to compete in both the Paralympics and the Olympics, a global symbol of resilience and determination. But in 2013, his story took a dark and shocking turn. In the early hours of Valentine's Day, Pistorius fired 4 shots through a locked bathroom door, killing his girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, a supermodel and law graduate. His defense? He mistook her for an intruder. But authorities weren't convinced, especially since their relationship had reportedly been strained for months. In October 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years for culpable homicide, but was released in less than a year for good behavior, sparking public outrage and a push for a harsher sentence. Prosecutors fought back, and in 2015, his conviction was overturned and upgraded to murder. This time, he was handed a 6-year sentence, a punishment widely criticized as shockingly lenient. The legal battle didn't stop there, though. In 2017, the court more than doubled his sentence to 13 years and 5 months, ensuring Pistorius would stay behind bars for the foreseeable future. From global inspiration to convicted killer, his fall from grace remains one of the most shocking in sports history. Sam Hurd's costly play. The NFL has seen its fair share of scandals, but few fell from grace quite like former Dallas Cowboy Sam Hurd. A standout at Northern Illinois University, Hurd had everything going for him when he entered the league until his off-the-field choices led him straight to a prison cell. On December 14, 2011, Hurd was arrested in a sting operation while attempting to buy massive quantities of cocaine and marijuana, allegedly intending to flip them for profit. A year later, things got worse when he failed multiple drug tests, violating the bond he had been granted after his initial arrest. His legal team scrambled to paint him as a victim of peer pressure and personal struggles, hoping to win sympathy from the court. But in the eyes of the law, there was no playbook for redemption. Hurd pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Once an NFL wide receiver with dreams of stardom, Hurd now spends his days behind bars at FCI Bastrop in Texas. His story serves as a stark reminder that in the high-stakes world of professional sports, one bad decision can cost more than just a career, it can cost everything. Ian Watkins, from rock star to inmate. For years, Ian Watkins stood at the helm of Lost Prophets, a band that resonated with rebellious teens who saw them as the voice of the misunderstood. But that voice was silenced in late 2012 when Watkins was arrested on a slew of horrifying charges. The news shattered his fan base, many of whom initially refused to believe the accusations. Even his bandmates stood by him until they couldn't. Watkins stunned the world by pleading guilty to charges that included possession and distribution of obscene materials and attempting to engage in unspeakable acts with a child. His crimes were so vile that the court spared the jury from having to endure the gruesome evidence, which reportedly included homemade videos. In exchange for his guilty plea, Watkins was handed a 29-year prison sentence, a staggering fall from grace for a once revered rock star. Since then, Watkins has deteriorated to the point of being unrecognizable. Reports from inside prison describe a man who has physically decayed, his hair turned gray, his teeth falling out, and his once slim frame ballooning beyond recognition. Even the few remaining Lost Prophets loyalists who still visit him say the transformation is shocking. Once the face of a generation's angst, Watkins is now just another inmate, locked away in a reality far darker than any song he ever wrote. Gary Glitter, the infamous pop singer, was first convicted of sexual abuse in 1999 after he was found downloading pornography on his personal computer. After serving a 4-month sentence in the UK, Glitter fled to Cambodia, where he lived until he was deported in 2002 on suspicion of sexual abuse. After leaving Cambodia, Glitter moved to Vietnam and was sentenced to further prison terms for sexual abuse. After serving his sentence, he returned to the UK, where he continued to face legal troubles as he tried to resurrect his career. New allegations continued to surface, most notably in 2012 when British police opened an investigation into the misconduct of Jimmy Savile, the late TV presenter and notorious rapist. During the investigation, police received several complaints against Glitter, including allegations that another rock and roller had sexually assaulted a young girl in Savile's dressing room at the BBC. After his arrest, Glitter was charged with more sexual assaults, bringing the total number of new charges to 8. Although he was only convicted of 5 of them, he was sentenced to 16 years in prison, leaving him with little chance of ever being released from prison at the age of 73. Joe Giudice's reality check. Reality TV might blur the lines between fact and fiction, but for Joe Giudice, there's no escaping the real-life consequences. Once known as the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense husband of the Real Housewives of New Jersey star Teresa Giudice, Joe played the part of the tough guy until the law played tougher. Joe and Teresa's lavish lifestyle came crashing down in 2015 when authorities exposed their elaborate bankruptcy scam. While both faced consequences, Joe took the harder hit, sentenced to 41 months in federal prison for failing to file tax returns between 2004 and 2008. In March 2016, he traded reality TV for real reality, reporting to New Jersey's Fort Dix Federal Correctional Institution. And if adjusting to prison life wasn't hard enough, his estranged wife Teresa, who completed her own sentence long ago, has been making it clear she's moved on. Rumor has it, Joe has been calling her from behind bars, leaving heated messages whenever she refuses to pick up. For someone who once thrived on the drama of reality television, Joe Giudice is now facing a script he never saw coming, one where the plot twists aren't scripted and the cameras have stopped rolling.